Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing the space tourism multi-page website. I think it's very interesting and we're going to go ahead and download the files in a moment. So what we'll be building is this. Basically, I managed to build it and I've deployed it to Netlify. So we have our home page with just some text and an explore button that pulses in and out, and we're going to be using Tailwind CSS for this. And then we have a destination page, we have a crew page, we have a technology page, and we can cycle through the images and the text. As well as for the crew page, you can cycle through the images and the text. So basically we are going to be creating tabs, right? So you can cycle through the images and the text. I think it's a very good project because it tests your layout skills as well as creating tabs, and we're going to be building this in React.js. So before we get started, I just want to show you that we're going to be using this repository. You can head over to my GitHub profile, or you can check the description below. So the repository is called Space Tourism Multi-Page Website, and you can go ahead and you can clone this. But one thing that I want to note, okay, one thing that you should note is that when you clone this, you're going to be using React Rotterdam version 5, okay? Please take note of this because it's very important, because the current version of React Rotterdam is version 6, and it introduces many changes which, if you're used to version 5, they're going to be just a bit different, okay? So we're going to be using React Rotterdam version 5 for this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clone this repository. So I'm going to copy this link, and then I'm going to open up my command prompt. So cd into desktop and into work folder, and then I'm going to say git clone, and then I'm just going to paste this link in, and then I'm going to let this run. Let me increase this. Okay, so it clones that folder, and then I'm going to say cd into space tourism multi-page website. Okay, and I'm going to open VS Code in this folder. Okay, so this is what we're going to have as our initial workspace. But remember that this is the complete project. Okay, so I'm going to delete my some of these components so that we can start from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to be deleting the components folder, and I'm going to delete the app.js as well, only the text inside the app.js, and then I think that is all that we're going to be deleting. Okay, but before I do that, what I want to do is I want to go back into my command prompt, and I want to say npm install, which is going to install all the dependencies that we have in our package.json, because this is very, very important. Okay, and remember that we're going to be using Tailwind CSS, so I'm going to grab the CDN, and actually, you know what, the CDN is already inside here because I linked it in the repository. So this is the Tailwind CSS CDN, and then these are the fonts that we're going to use. So we have the font that is called Mojave, and we have another one that is called Zen Antique. Okay, so let's go ahead and say npm install, and then I'm going to let this run, and then once this finishes running, then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to continue the project. Okay, so once this finishes running, then what I want to do is just say npm start, which will start our dev server on localhost 3000, and it is going to start the complete project. But like I said, I want to delete some of these items inside here so we can start from scratch. Okay, so once your dev server spins up, then this is what you're going to have on the screen. You're going to have this cool looking home page, or the destination page that you can cycle through these images and the text, the crew page, as well as the technology page. And on small screens, this is how it's going to look. So we're going to have a hamburger menu that just drops down like that, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be creating that as well in CSS, and of course in just a bit of JavaScript, React technically, but yeah, that's okay. Screen, can't see my screen, increase brightness. Okay, there we go. So what I want to do now is let's just go back to the home page, and then I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to delete the components page. So I'm going to just say delete the components folder, and everything inside is going to break. There we go. And then in app.js, I just want to grab all of this and remove it, and then I'm just going to say import React from React, and then I'm going to say export default function app, and then let's just return a fragment. So oops, okay, so return a fragment with an h1 that says hello world. Okay, so we should see hello world on the screen. There we go. So we have hello world, and notice that in our CSS, what I want to do is I'm going to remove everything in our CSS except for this. Okay, because this imports our font as well as this inside here, and then this just resets our margin, and for the rest of this we're just going to add it in manually. And you know what, rather than adding all of this in manually, what I want to do is right around here, all the way down, all the way to the bottom. I'm going to delete everything all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to do that. Basically, we're going to redo that. Okay, so let's save this, and nothing should change on the screen. Fantastic. So the first thing that I want to do obviously now is create a new folder called components, like so. And then in components, I want to create header.js, like so. And then in header.js, what I want to do is just say _rfc, come on. It's not loading, so just type it out, export default function header. And then we're going to be returning like so, return a fragment. And then inside here, let's have a header tag. And then the header tag is going to have a div, and this div is going to be a link that comes from React.dom. It's going to be linking down back to the /, and it's just going to say our logo. So inside here is the logo that we're going to get because it's an image. Okay, and actually let's just get the logo right away. So I'm just going to say import logo from the / should be / where is it, in starter code, and then assets / starter code / assets / and it is called, where is it, I can't find it. Where's my logo? Actually can't find it. No, it should be in shared. Yeah, there we go, logo.svg. So shared folder and then logo.svg. There we go. So that's our logo, and we're going to be displaying our logo inside this link. So instead of the logo here, let's just add an image tag. The source for this is going to be the logo that we've just imported. The alt for this is just going to say, let's say, space tourism. And then the title for this is going to say space tourism as well. Okay, now for now we can save this, and then we can go into app.js, and then we can begin setting up React.dom. Okay, so I'm just going to say import React from React, and then I'm going to say import. We're going to be importing browser router as router. We're going to import route, and then we're going to import the switch. So once again, this is React.dom version 5. I'm going to go inside my components folder. Okay, so let me just close this. Where is it? Close this. Close this. So I'm going to go inside my components folder, and I'm going to create an index.js file. Okay, index.js, and then in index.js, I'm just going to say import header from /header, like so, and then I'm going to say export header. Okay, so the reason why I do this is because some of these files become so many where we want to import all of them in app.js. Okay, because we're also going to have a pages folder, so they become so many, so we just want to consolidate them into one file in called index.js. And when you have a file called index.js in your workspace, then React automatically detects it as the entry file for that kind of folder, right? So what I mean basically is, if I have index.js in my components, then let me show you what is going to happen. So let's save this, and if I go into app.js, I'm just going to say import header as a named import, and see, now it comes from /components. Okay, so you don't have to completely reference the file all the way to its extension, right? So just say import header from components. So let's save this, and then let's begin setting up our React router. And link is not defined, of course, because I need to import it. So let's say import link from React router DOM, like so. And then inside here, let's wrap all of this inside the router, like so. And then let's have our header displayed at the top, and then let's have our switch component. And then inside our switch, we're going to have a route. The path for this is going to be /, and then it's going to have an exact prop, and then it's going to be rendering a bit more components that we don't have yet. So let's save that, and then you can see our logo displays immediately. And then we're going to also have another route. The path for this is going to be crew, that is going to be rendering the crew component, and you know what, destination is the first one, so destination. Okay, and then the next route, the path for this is going to be /crew, and then the final route path for this is going to be /technology, like so. So let's go ahead and create these components, and these components are going to be inside our folder called pages. Okay, because they're technically pages. So pages folder, and then we're going to have destination.js, and then we're going to have crew.js, and then we're going to have technology.js. And then remember that we have a data.json file. If I can just find it, we have a data.json file. So destination page is going to be referencing this data, and then the crew page is going to be referencing this, and then the technology page is going to be referencing this. Okay, so that's quite interesting, and it's really nice. So in destination, I just want to say _rfc, like so, return an h1 that says destination page, and then in crew I just want to do the same thing, return an h1 that says crew page, and then in technology just do the same thing, and then return an h1 that says technology page. Okay, so we can close that, and then one thing that I do want to do once again is inside pages. So inside my pages folder, I want to create an index.js. Okay, and then inside here we're going to import destination from /destination. Just copy this down, then import crew, and then import technology, like so. And then we're going to export destination, crew, and technology. There we go. And then we can go into app.js, and then we can import destination, and then we can import crew, and then we can import technology as well from /pages, and then we can begin to render them inside here. So for our destination route, we're going to be rendering /destination, like so. For our crew, we're going to be rendering crew component, and then for technology, we're going to be rendering technology, like so. Fantastic. So we can go ahead and we can save this, and we can navigate manually into these pages. So if I go into technology, we're going to see technology page. If I go into crew, we're going to see crew page, and if I go into destination, we're going to see destination page. Okay, fantastic. That is working correctly. Okay, so let's begin working on our home page, which we actually don't have. It's going to be a component. So inside components, inside here, let me just have home.js, and then in home.js, let me say _rfc, like so. Okay, and then we're going to be returning a fragment, and then inside here we're going to have a section with a class of, let me just call this home, like so. And then in this class of home, we're going to have a div with a class of overlay in the section of home, sorry. And then this div with the class of overlay is going to have an h4 that says something. Let me just go ahead into this page, my home page. So you want to travel to space, that's what it says. Okay, let's just have that open so that we can continue to just copy and paste to move faster. So you want to travel to, and then we're going to have an, you know what, let me just make this an h1. Okay, and then we can say, let me place this into a span that says space, like so. Okay, fantastic. And then below this, we're going to have a paragraph that says this. So let's copy this and paste it inside here. Okay, you can just pause the video and type it out if you want, or you can just go into this website inside here, and then you can just copy and paste to move faster. Okay, so after this div with a class of overlay, actually, you know what I want to do is grab all of this, paste it inside an article, like so, and then have another article. And this article is going to have a button, and this button is going to link to /destination, which is basically this button inside here, like so. Oops, like so. And it's good, the text is going to say explore. Fantastic. So let's save this. Let's see what we have. This is home.js. Let's go inside our components index.js. So inside here, we're going to say import home from /home, like so. And then we're going to render, we're going to export home, like so. Oops. We're going to export home, and then inside app.js, we can just render in home. So let's see what we have on the screen. Unexpected token. What is happening in home.js? What is happening? This shouldn't be here. Okay, so let's reload that. Home is not defined, link is not defined. Oh, I need to import link inside here. So import link from React Rotterdam. Okay, and then in app.js, I need to import home inside here from components. If I can just type it. Okay, so there we go. So we have, when it does that, you can just reload it. So we have our header here, we have our text for the h1, we have our paragraph text, and then we have our button that goes to /destination. Fantastic. Okay, So let's go ahead and let's style out our home page. Now the first thing that I want to do is add the background image. Okay, so let's go inside index.js and then let's access the .home class. And for the home, I'm just going to say background. Background, I'm going to set this to URL, and it's going to run from slash. Sorry, it's going to run from /, it's starter code, and then / assets. So it should be it. /home / background mobile. Okay, and then we're going to set the background repeat to no repeat, and then we're going to set it to the center and cover. And then I'm building this mobile first, that's why we have our mobile image first, and then I'm going to add a media query inside here. So at media, for a min width of, let's say, 768 pixels, then I just want to change this. So copy this, and I want to change this to desktop, like so. Okay, fantastic. And then I want to set the height for this to calculate, let's say calculate 100 viewport heights plus 1 pixel, so that the height comes back in terms of pixels, so that we don't have our content getting restructured because of a change in the viewport heights. Okay, so let's just save this. Let's save this at that. So let's save this, and we have this. So is our text. So right here is our text. Fantastic. Okay, looking nice, looking nice. But the header, remember the header is positioned absolute. So let's go ahead and we can do that actually. So for the header, let's give this let me give it a class name of header, and then let's just go into index.css, and above this let's access the dot header, and then let's just say position absolute. Okay, let's take it to the top by 0, let's take it to the left by 0. Actually, is that correct? Is that correct? That should be almost correct, but we won't really see how correct we are until we add our links. Okay, so let's just leave it at that for now, and then we can go ahead and let's start dealing with our text inside here. So for the home, I want to access the home and then the overlay class, like so. I just want to say display flex, align it at center, just to encode it to the center, and then the height, I'm going to say calculate 100 viewport heights plus 1 pixel, just like we did above, like so. And it should go to the center, so our text is to the center, and then I just want to say text line center, like so. Fantastic. And then of course, let's say text should be white, so the color should be white. There we go, looking fantastic, looking amazing. And of course, we want the flex direction to be column, so that this button here goes to the bottom. So let's say flex direction, set this to column, and there we go. So let's go ahead inside our home.js, and then let's begin styling this out much better. So inside h1, let me give this a class name of text dash, let's say 2xl. Okay, let me say text gray dash 200. And what I've just realized is probably I shouldn't have added this here, so let me remove that. Okay, let's go back inside here. Let's say text gray dash 400. Let's have it at 400, and then inside this span, I want to give this span a class name of block, so that it goes to the next line. And then let's say text dash 4xl, and then let's say that for large screen the text should go to 6xl, and then let's say text white to change it to white. There we go. Let's say margin top of 5, margin bottom of 10. Fantastic. And then let's go inside this paragraph, give this a class name of text dash gray dash 400. There we go. Fantastic, looking amazing, looking amazing. And then let's go inside our button, give this button a class name of width dash 52 and height dash 52 and rounded dash full and bg white, and then text gray dash 800. Okay, so that we're going to have this, and then let's say uppercase, and then let's say font bold. Actually, can that text go to bold? Let's say text dash 4xl, make it bigger, and then let's say that for large screens, let's say text dash 5xl. Okay, and then what I want to do is just add an animate pulse on it, so that it pulses in and out like that. Look at that, looking amazing, fantastic. So let me reduce this from height 52 to, let me see how height 40 looks. Too small, let's say height 48. Okay, that's much better. And then for this article, I'm going to give this article a class name of margin top of 20. Push it downwards from this. There we go, fantastic. And then the final thing that I do want to do is I want to add padding on the left and right, so that there's a bit more space between this text. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside here, let's say padding and x of 5. There we go. Now let's see, let's scale it up and let's see. So how does it look? Right around there, see how the image changes because of the media query, right? The image changes, right? Fantastic. Now what I want to do is that for about large screens, then I want this text to go to the left and then this to go to the right. Okay, so for large screens, let's go ahead and say this. Let's do this. Let's go inside this overlay and say that for large screens, then I want this to display as a grid with grid columns dash 2 with a gap of 10. Okay, so we're going to have right around, oops, this is the first article, this is the second article. This is the parent, grid columns dash 2 gap 10. Am I doing that wrong? Grid columns 2, or is this not large enough? Interesting. It's because we have flex inside here. So probably we're going to have to do this manually inside here. So at media for a mean width of 1024 pixels, then I want to access the home.overlay class, and I want to say display grid with grid template columns to repeat twice with one fractional column. Let's add a grid gap of 1 rem, which is 16 pixels. Did I specify that? Let's say font size, let's set it to 18 pixels. Okay, so 1 rem is going to be 18 pixels. Okay, let's see. There we go. So it now displays as a grid, right around there. And then want this text to go back to the left. So where did I have it? I had it inside here. So let's say text align center to the left. Sorry. There we go. Okay. And then what I want to do is for the home overlay at 1024 pixels, then I want to have a max width of, let's say, 1000 pixels. And then let's say margin, set this to auto so that it goes back to the center. There we go. And then probably this gap is too small. Let's say gap 4 that is too small, still too small. How does this look actually? Where is it? How did I position this? Did I position this as absolute? I think I did position it as absolute. What we can do is actually not, before I do forget, let me remove these tiles from here because they're going to mess us up. What I can do is, let me comment this out, and then let's say display flex align item center, just we're going to do the center. You know, it's already flex above here, so I don't need these classes. So let's just say flex direction, set this to row so that this happens. And then what I can do is go inside my home.js and inside this article, give this a class name that on large screens the width should be half. Let me see how that looks. So width half goes around up to there. That is almost correct. Let me say width should be a third. Not too small. Let's just have it at half. Okay, and then I can say that for large screens, then the margin on the right should be 20. There we go. That is looking much better. I actually think this looks much better than what I had in my first one. We're just going to work with this one. That's okay. And then when we click on explore, it's going to take us to the destination page, and we can click on the logo to take us back to the home page, so that we have this for our initial. Now let's go ahead and deal with our header. So for the header, let's see what we're going to do. For the header, let's go ahead and say this is our div. So we're going to have a nav with ul with how many list items? There are going to be 4 list items. Okay, and these list items are going to have links like so. And this first one is going to be linking to /. The second one is going to be linking to / destination. The third one is going to be linking to / crew. And then the fourth one is going to be linking to / technology. There we go. And then the text for this obviously is going to say 01. So I'm going to place this inside a span and says 01, and then this is going to say home. Okay, because as you can see in our design, we have like 00, 01, 02, 03, and I said that is 00. What am I doing? 00. And then I'm just going to copy this span, copy this inside here and here and here. Paste this in, change this to 01, change this to 02, and then change this to 03. And then the text for this is going to say destination. If I can just type destination, this is going to say crew, and then this is going to say technology. There we go. So you can save this, and then let's see what you have on the screen. So crew is not defined. Sorry, this should not be a component, should be text. Okay, so we're going to have the links inside here. Look at those. Okay, so let's begin styling this out. Let's just go ahead and give this now a class name. And you know what? Let me give this a class name of number so that I can style it in the CSS. So let's go right about here. No. Let's go here. So for the header and for the navbar, I'm going to say position this as absolute. Okay. And then you know what? Actually, you know what? What am I doing? The header is positioned absolute. The navbar is also positioned absolute. I think that will still work actually. So position this absolute. Let me give this a background color. I think I want to change this background color to white. What am I doing? I don't have the variable. So let's say FFF. Okay, let's say that for the width should be 100%. 100%. Come on. Really? Let's say 100 viewport widths. There we go. And then for the header, let me go ahead into the header. Let me give this a padding of 20 pixels all around. Push it in on just a bit. There we go. And then what I want to do is this is going to be positioned up to the top by, let me see how, let's say calculate, and I'm going to be calculating 80 pixels minus 10 pixels. Let me see how this looks. Let's say 90 pixels. There we go. And then let me give this some padding as well of 20 pixels, like so. And then let me go inside the header.navbar, and then the navbar is the actual navbar, right? Is the nav element. So I need to go inside the UL. So UL and then the list items, and then I'm going to say margin on the top and bottom of 10 pixels and 0 on the left and right. There we go. You know what? Let's make this 20 pixels. Just make it bigger. Still looking a bit too small. Let's say 40 pixels. Probably overkill, but you know, it works. And notice how we have our horizontal scroll bar. That's because of this 100 viewport widths. Okay, so let's change this up. So let's say calculate 100 viewport widths minus what did you have on the left and right. So 20 pixels. Let's say minus 40 pixels. 40 pixels, which should now limit it. Let's say minus 100 pixels just to be safe. That's looking horrible, but that's okay because we can fix it by setting this to the left by 50%, and then you can say transform and translate on the x-axis. I can't even see what I'm typing. On the x-axis by minus 50%, which will take it back to the center. Really? Wait a minute. Okay, there we go. Okay, we don't need this. Okay, we don't need this. That's okay. That's okay. And then we're going to be resetting these styles on bigger screens, but the first thing that we do need is our navbar. Okay, not our navbar, sorry, but our menu button. So let's go inside header, and I think I have React icons installed. Let me just confirm. Yeah, I have React icons. So let me go ahead into header.js, and then I'm going to say import the icon. I think it's called CG Alt Left. If it's not, then we're just going to get it from React icons. Where is it? React icons. There we go. And it's /CG. That's the folder. And then below this, inside this navbar, below this nav, we're going to have a div. This div is going to be a button, and this button is going to be CG left out, like so. And then let's see what we have. Let me give this a class name of text white and text dash for example. Where are you? I can't see you. CG alt left is not okay. So let me check out what the icon is called from React icons. Let's say menu. It's called, where is it? Where is that icon? Not this one, now the opposite of CG menu left. Okay, it's called CG menu left. Paste this inside here and paste this inside here. Okay, so here it is right there, right? Fantastic. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go inside our header. Let's give this header a class name of flex, like so, and item center, and justify between. Come on, it doesn't go the way. Let's say width dash full because it's positioned absolute. There we go. Now, okay, now I see why this wasn't working. So we actually need to say transform and translate on the x-axis by -50%, which will bring it back to the center. There we go. Now it works. And then now let's add the functionality for this for our thing inside here. Now by default, what I want to do is, by default, I want this to disappear on the top, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, just cut this out. I'm going to set this to the top by -100%. Okay, so it's going to disappear, or you're not -100, 1,000. Let's say 1,000. I said, does that work? No. Set it to the top by, what am I doing? Let's set it to the top by -100%. Wait, how does that not work? So let's say -10,000%. Okay. Because apparently it won't work. And then for the header, now I want to add a class on the navbar for the class of open. So what this means is that when the navbar has a class of open, then the styles inside here should apply. And then I'm just going to paste this in. Okay, so we're going to paste this in, and then I'm just going to say add a transition here, and I'm going to say transition, and I'm going to be transition the transform property. Is it transform? No, not the transform. Transition the top property by 0.5 seconds, and then I'm just going to say ease in out. Okay, so let's save this, and then let's go ahead into our navbar, our header, sorry, and then let's add a class of navbar inside here, class of open. Look at that. Now if we remove it, it disappears. If we add it, then it appears. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's add our click event on our button. So for the button, I'm going to say on click, then I want to toggle the handle click method or function that we're going to create, which is going to be toggling the class of open on the navbar. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our function. So I'm going to say const handle click, and this is going to be equal to an arrow function because I love arrow functions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the navbar, right? So I'm going to be getting this navbar. So I'm going to say const navbar equals to document dot query selector, and I'm selecting the class of navbar like so. So dot navbar, and then I'm just going to say navbar dot class list dot toggle, and we're toggling the class of open. So let's save this and look at that. Look at that. Looking amazing. Looking amazing. Fantastic. Okay, now let's go ahead and now we can begin dealing with our other pages. So we have the home page, we have the destination page, we have the crew page, we have the technology page. And you know what I can do is, because I want that when you click on each of these, then this class should be removed, right? So that the navbar disappears. So let's see if we can do that. Let's go ahead and let's give these list items, all of these list items, I'm going to give this a class name of, let's just say list item, like so. And then inside here, I'm going to say const list items equals to document dot query selector all, and I'm selecting all with the class of list item, like so. And then we're going to say list items dot for each, right? And for each list item, for each item that we get back, then I want to say item dot add event listener, and we're listening for the click event, right? And we're going to say that when the click event fires, then we just want to say navbar dot class list dot remove the class of open. I think this was going to work. So we're going to be, what this does is we are looping over each list item that we get, right? So all the list items in our navbar, and then when we click on the list items, then we're going to be removing the class of open. If the toggle sets the class of open on the navbar, then when we click on this, then it's going to remove it, which would make it disappear. So let's test this out. Let's see if it works. And it doesn't work. It doesn't. Oh, there we go. It only needed a reload. Okay, so it actually works. There we go. There we go. Looking fantastic. Looking amazing. Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and let's style out our navbar for bigger screens, right? Because we don't want this to happen on bigger screens. We want on large screens, then we want this to disappear, and then we want to set this back to here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into index.css and play around with our CSS. Okay, So actually I want to place this on bigger screen because it's going to be easier, and then I'm going to split the screens like so, using control and backslash to split the screens. And then what I want to do is this is going to be right here for the header, and then I'm going to go inside here. And what I can remove this now that we don't need it. So I'm going to say that for the header and for the .navbar class, what I want to do is position this as relative. Okay, position relative. And then what I want to do is that for the header class, and where did I add the flex on the header? Is it here? Okay, so let's add it here. Let's say that for large screens, then this should go to flex row. Okay, so for the header, what I want to do is actually, you know what, right inside here as well, I want to give this a class name that for large screens, then this should be hidden, so display none. Okay, and then for the header navbar, I want the background color to be a transparent, right? So let's say RGBA 255 255 255 and 0.5, like so. And then let's say to the top by 0, let's set it to the left by 0. I don't know whether that will work. And what else do we need to do? Let's set the width to auto. Let me see what that does. So it does that. Okay, fantastic. We are getting there. We're getting there. Now what you need to do is this needs to be flex, the UL. Okay, so for the header.navbar, for the UL, I will just want to say display flex. There we go. And then the list items had a margin of 40 pixels. Okay, so for the header navbar ULLI, just want to say margin of 0 on the top and bottom, and then now 40 pixels on the left and right. Separate them out like so. And then what is this? Let's check out what that is. What is this? What? I'm confused. Let's set up by minus 100%. Let me see what this goes. Interesting. Where does that go? I can't tell where it goes. Okay, top by 100%. What? 0%. What? Item center, where is it? Did I justify this to the center as well? Justify between. But why doesn't this go all the way to the right therefore? What did I have inside our header? Let me just check. Header, flex, item center, justify between with full flex row. And what have I here? Position relative, background color, left. Oh, you know what? It's because of the left. I should place it to the right. What am I doing? There we go. So let's say right. We have a transform translate somewhere inside here. Let me just confirm this. Transform translate here, so we need to remove it. So transform, and let's say translate on the x-axis by 0%, or by minus, or by minus 100%. Is that correct? Really? 1000%? Minus 500%. 200. Really? Why isn't this working? By 5%. On the right by 5%. 50%. Why isn't this working? Set it to the right by 20 pixels. What is happening? What is really happening inside here? What is happening? You know what? It's because of this position absolute of the header. Let me just touch it out. Position relative. Nope, it still behaves the same way. Which I don't want. Okay, now so let's set this to the left by 20 pixels. I sometimes hate CSS. Let's say 40 pixels. Wait, what is happening inside here? Oh, it's going further. It's going further. So let's say by minus 20 pixels. Push it down. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. And then transform translate x by, let's say, let me say by minus 20 pixels. Then what does that be? Okay, there we go. That is almost correct. I don't like it though, so let's set it to 10 pixels so that the total becomes 20 pixels. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. Now what I want to do is actually can remove this header and remove that one. And then this needs to be a glass filter thingy, right? It's going to be a glass filter, and the text needs to be white as well. So let's go ahead. Let me close this now, and let's go ahead into the links inside here. So inside each of these links, so here, not there, here, and then here, nope, not there, here, and here. Really? Why do you do that? And then here. Let's give this a class name of text white. Okay. Actually not text white, but on large screens, then text white. And then let's go ahead inside this span, and then this span, and then this one and this one. Let's give this a class name of text-4xl, and then font bold. And now this is for large screens as well. What am I doing? For large screens as well, like so. Okay, let's go inside each of these list items inside here, and let me test out something. Let's say flex. Okay, so let's set it that on large screens, then flex, and then on large screens, then items dash center. Okay, and then let's go ahead inside these spans once again. So inside these spans, and then let's say that for large screens, then the margin right should be 2. Separate them out, and not only for large screens really, but let's just set it for even for smaller screens, so margin left to be 2. Fantastic. Now we can navigate this, and of course this needs to be a glass filter. That's what I was saying, right? So let's go ahead and go inside the header, into the header navbar, and then we can add what is called a backdrop filter. Set this to blur, and let's blur it by 4 pixels. There we go. So it's just slightly glass filter, as you can see. And then we need to add a what's it called, a vendor prefix. So WebKit backdrop filter to ensure that it works on other browsers as well. So by blur it by 4 pixels. Okay, now this is our header. This is looking quite nice as well. It's a bit different from what I had built, but you know, you live, you learn. So let's go ahead, and now we can start dealing with our destination page, and this is where things get interesting. Yes, they do. Okay, so for our destination page, let me close all of this down. Let me close all of these down. Let's go ahead into destination.js, and then in destination.js, what I want to do, the first thing that we're going to do is, because we're going to be fetching our data, so we need to import useState from React, and then we need to import our actual data. So we need to import it's called inside starter code inside destination.js. So it's called destinations. Okay, so let me see, let's say import destinations from dot slash should be starter code / data.json. Okay, and then let's go ahead and say const, let me say items equals to use state, and by default it's going to be using the destinations. Is that going to work? Actually, let me see what we have. Okay, that actually works. That works fantastic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another state value called value, and then set value. This is going to be equal to use state. By default it's going to be 0. Notice how I've only specified the items and not the set items. That's because we are not going to use the set items function, so you don't really need to specify it. Okay, so you can just destructure the items alone. And then once we do this, then we know that we are going to be getting the name, the images, the description, the distance, and the travel time. Okay, so what we're going to do is you know what, instead of calling these items, let me call this planets, because we're dealing with planets first, right? planets, or rather whatever, the heavenly bodies. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to destructure this data. We're going to destructure this data inside here and then set it to the value. So I'm going to say const, let's say const, what do we have? Name, images, description, distance, travel. Name, images, description, distance, and travel. And then this is going to be equal to the value. Sorry, this is going to be equal to the planets into the value. Is that correct? So what this means is that the planets, we're going to be fetching the data of the planets, which is equal to the value that we have inside here. And this value is going to be the index of the planet. So the index, so index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Oops, don't do that. And so on and so forth. So let's see what we have. Let's return a fragment inside here, and then let's return a section. And then this section is going to have an h1 that says 01, and it says 01. What is it? Pick your destination. I think it was pick your destination, like so. And then inside here we're going to have a div, and then this div is going to have an article, and then this article is going to have an image, and the source for these images is going to be images dot, it's going to be images dot what do we have inside here? We have images dot png. I prefer using the png. You can use the webp as well, it's all preference. So images dot png. The alt for this, in case the image fails to load, is going to be the name of the planet or the heavenly body, and then the title is going to be the name as well. And then beside this article, we're going to have buttons on the top, but we're going to deal with that in a moment. Okay, so we're going to have some buttons, and then below this article we're going to have an h2 that says the name. Okay, and then below this we're going to have a paragraph that says the description, and then below this we're going to have a ul with two list items, and the first list item is going to say the distance. Is it? Yeah, distance. So distance. And then the second one is going to say the travel. Okay, I think that should be correct. That should be correct. So let's save this. Let's see what we have. Look at that, looking amazing. And notice that if I change this to index 1, then it's going to say mass, and 2 and 3, and we don't have a fourth one, so it's going to generate an error. Look at that. Right, okay, fantastic. So from 0 we're going to have that. Now we just need to style this out a bit better, and this has some text actually. What did it say? It says average distance and estimated travel days. Okay, so this says, what does it say? It says avg distance, okay, and estimated travel time. Okay, so fantastic. Now what we need to do is we need to get our buttons, right? Because notice that we have buttons inside here that we can just toggle, right? That we can click on instead of manually having to change it inside here. So let's go ahead and do this, right? So I'm going to say inside here, I'm going to say right about inside here, then I'm going to say, okay, so let's go ahead and let's say inside here, let's say planets.map. Okay, and for every planet that we get back, so let's call this item, and then let's call the index, we're getting the index, like so, and then we're going to be returning a button. Okay, close this out, and this button is going to have a key of index, like so, and then this is going to say item.name, right, which is going to access the name inside here. Now we're going to need an on click on this button so that when we click on it, then the value inside here is going to change. So we're going to say on click, and on click we're going to say set value into the index of the button that we click on. That should be correct. Let's save this. Let's test this out. So we have moon, we have Mars. There we go. Look at that, looking fantastic. And that is as simple as that. So let's begin styling this out. We know that these buttons should be uppercase. Oops. So give this a class name of uppercase. Let's say text white. Let's say text dash to XL, and then let's go ahead and say padding bottom of 2, and let's say border dash b, and this is almost correct but not so quite. So let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's do let's go inside this section, give this section a class name of home, okay, and then we're going to give it a class name of destination as well. I'm saying home because I wanted to grab the classes of the home page that we already had, because that, and then all we need to do is now just change the background image. So let's go ahead, and you know what, inside this class name we need to have a padding of the x of 5 as well. Okay, push it in once, and then let's go inside our index.css, which is right inside here, and then we can just copy this. You know what, instead of doing that, we can just we can say right around here, we can say dot destination nation, we can set the background to URL, and then the URL is going to be dot slash starter code forward slash assets forward slash should be destination forward slash background destination mobile. Oh, you know what, we have the tablet image as well, so you know what, this should be tablet. Ooh, that was quite a huge mistake. So let's do the same for this, and then set the background repeat to no repeat, and then set it to the center and cover. Okay, and we don't need to set the height on it because the height is coming from the home right inside here, because we have set the class for this to be home as well. And then, and by the way, the reason why this applies is because of CSS specificity, where the more you add to the bottom of the CSS file, then the more specificity you have. That's why this doesn't apply when you apply this. So I can save this and notice that the background is going to change. Okay, so let's grab this inside here, let's paste it here, and then let's change this to tablet, and then let's do the same for right around here, and then let's change this to desktop. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for the home page. So home page, this is tablet, and then right around here should be the desktop, so that it scales nicer. Okay, fantastic. So we have our, let's increase it, our tablet image right there, and then we have our desktop image right there. Look at that, looking amazing. It looks amazing, it does. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's continue styling this out. So in destination, what I want to do is give this div, is it this div? Let's give this, actually not this image, first of all, give this image a class name of block and mx auto, which will push it to the center. Okay, let's give it a width of, let's say 75%, which is about 3/4, so 3/4. Okay, make it just a bit smaller. Then let's say margin bottom of 10, pushed away from this text. And then inside these buttons, let's go inside these buttons, and then let's say mx of 2. Okay, separate them out like so, looking fantastic. And then what we can do is, I want these buttons to be aligned to the center, and actually not everything inside here is going to be aligned to the center. So let's give this article a class name of text-center, like so. And then let's go inside this h2, give this a class name of text-5xl and font-bold, and then let's say text white. And then let's say margin top 5, margin, oh, you know, margin top 10, margin bottom 5, and we're going to have that, and then set this to uppercase. Okay, and let's increase the letter spacing, so tracking widest. There we go, looking fantastic. And then let's go ahead into this paragraph, give this paragraph a class name of text gray-400. Look at that, so we can cycle through this, and we can cycle through them. Okay, so what I want to do is, I only want the user to see this bottom border when we are actually on the actual item that we click on. And before I forget, let me add a margin top here, so that this pushes downwards, so that on large screens I want this. I don't want this to happen, rather I don't want this to happen where the moon is going to be here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go inside this, should be this div. Let's give this div a class name of padding top of 10. Let's say padding top of 20. Okay, you know what, let's say padding y of 20. That's what I didn't want to happen. So let's just say padding top of 20 first of all. We're going to fix that in a moment. And then what I want to do is, let's see, how are we going to do that therefore for the buttons? What we can do is, instead of having this class name inside here, let me just cut this out. Okay, and then let me place my curly brackets, and then let's place my template literals. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to paste in these classes. And then I want to check that when the index, when the button is equal, the button we click on is equal to the index, that's when we want to add the bottom border. Okay, so we can do that by saying, let's add our $sign like so. And then let's say when index is equal to the value, right? When this is true, then we want to say border bottom. So let's say border dash B and border dash white. Okay, and then we need to remove, you know what, actually this is actually correct inside here. So let's say border transparent. And then, you know what, before I actually write that, let me show you why we have to add this inside here. Let's save that, and then, you know what, let me remove this inside here so you can actually see that it works. So there we go. So we can toggle through this. Look at that, looking fantastic, looking amazing. Now all we need to do is just scale it up. Okay, so we can go ahead and do this. We have two articles inside this div. We can say that for medium screens, then we should display as a grid with grid columns to be 2 with a gap of 5. Look at that, looking amazing right around there, and then our thingy disappears. And then what I want to do is we can say for medium screens, let me see if item center is going to work. Item center only pushes this downwards a bit, right? Okay, so that's what it does. And then we're going to have this. And then now what I want to do is I want this text to align to the left. So where did I have text center? Right inside here. I want to say that for large screens, then the text should go back to the left. Text left. Would you look at that, looking amazing? And then I want to add a max width so that this text doesn't go all the way to the end, right? Oh, and I haven't styled this below. We're going to do that. So let's go ahead and say that for large screens, then the max width should be, you know what, I added a max width, a custom max width inside here. What was it? 1000 pixels. So let's say that for the destination, then the first div, this is the only div, right? That's actually counterintuitive now that I think about it. Let me just add it. Let me add it inside here. So I'm going to say that for large screens, then the max width should be 7XL, and then for large screens, then let's say MX Auto. There we go. Limit it just a bit, and it's looking amazing. And then for large screens, I want to increase this padding on the top. So for large screens, the padding on the top should be 52. That's too much. Let's say 40. There we go. Looking amazing. Would you look at that? And now let's style out this final text at the bottom. And right inside here, I'm going to give this a class name of flex and item center and justify between. And then I'm just going to say flex wrap. So I'm going to add flex wrap so that in case the text doesn't fit on smaller devices, then it's automatically going to go into the next line. Okay. So let's see. Let's change this text to white. So let's grab both of these. Give this a class name of text-white. Okay. And then let me grab this text, place it inside a span like so, and then grab this as well, place it inside a span. And then let's grab this 2, give this a class name of text-2XL. Okay, and then inside here, let's say text-4XL. There we go. And then for this, what I want to do is, you know what, I've actually done something wrong. You know what, I'm actually correct. So inside here, all we need to do is go inside this span and then give this span a class name of block, so that this is going to happen. Would you look at that? And then let's say font light. Or it doesn't work because it's already font light. Okay, now what you need to do is add a border on the top, right? So let's say, let me go inside this UL inside here. Let's say border top, and then let's say border gray dash 400. Okay, and then let's say padding top of 10, push it downwards. There we go. And then let's go inside this paragraph, and then let's say padding bottom of 10, push it downwards. There we go. Would you look at that, looking amazing? So now we have this looking fantastic. Now, as you can tell, for the rest of the pages, we're just going to be doing basically the same thing. The only thing that is going to be changing is the layout. Okay, so let's go ahead into the crew page. Okay, and you know what I'm going to do? is I'm just going to copy all of this inside here, and then let's go into crew.js, and then let's just paste this inside here, and then let's change this to crew. Okay, and then grab this and this. Okay, and then let's change this to crew like so. Change this to from planets to crew as well. Is it crew? Let me say people, because we're talking about people here. And then this is going to say people. Okay, and then we need to change these items in here because we're referencing the name, images, role, and bio. So role and bio, we don't need all of this. Role and bio. Okay, and then this is, I think this is going to say know your crew. What does it say? What does it say? So meet your crew. Okay, meet your crew. So 02 meet your crew. Come to think of it, did I actually style this? Did I actually style where is it? Oh, planets is not defined. So this should now say, what did I have? People. People. Okay. So description is not defined, so we need to remove description from here. Actually, you know what? Instead of removing it, then we need to just say bio. This should say bio. Okay. And then what else do we need to remove? Distance and travel. So we don't need this UL inside here. We can remove it. Okay, and we don't need the padding bottom of 10 anymore. Okay, plans. Okay, so there we go. Look at that. We already have something to work with. We already have something to work with, but you can tell that we need to move this to the left, and then this image should go to the right. Okay, that's almost easy enough. And then of course we need to change this from text to actually like circles that you can click on. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's say why am I not, I'm not seeing meet your crew. Where is this text? Meet your crew. I don't see it. Where are you? Where? Oh, here it is. Oh, there we go. So that means I didn't style it out for destination as well. Pick a destination. Yeah, I didn't style it out. How did I forget? I have no idea. So this padding top shouldn't be here. It should be on the H1. So class name padding top 20. Put it downwards. Where is it? Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong page. I'm on the wrong page. Sorry about that. So class name padding top 20. There we go. And then we can remove this from here. And where is it? It's still here. So what is this? What is this space? What is this space? Padding top 40. So we need to remove this from here. Let's say for large screens, padding top 40. Okay. And then you know what? Actually, this would mean something. Let's say that for large screens, that max width should be 7XL. We should push it where? Let's say for large screens, then the MX should be auto, but I don't want that to center. Okay, there we go. So let's say text white. Let's say text dash 4XL, and then for large screens text dash 6XL. Too big. Too big, too big, too big, too big, too big. Okay, let's set this to uppercase. Let's say margin bottom 10. There we go. Okay, pick a destination and so on and so forth. Fantastic, fantastic. Now let's just copy these tiles from here to here, copy them into crew.js from here to here, and then we can remove this padding top. Okay, fantastic. So meet your crew is going to have this, and then for the crew page we need this to be changed to crew page. Okay, so the class to change from destination to crew, and then we're going to do something similar that we have already done before. So inside here, below this, now let me just copy this, and then let's change this to crew, crew, and crew, like so. And then we can copy this, paste it inside here, change this to tablet, and then paste it inside here, change this to desktop. Look at that, looking amazing. Oops, what's this? Oh, it's because of this image. Okay, I think it's because of the image. I think so. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's deal with this. So now what we need to do is inside the crew.js, what we need to do is this. What do we need to do? This is still correct. So now instead of this rendering item.name, we need to render circles. Okay, so let's go into React icons. Let's get this circle logo, so circle, and then let's grab which one? Let's use this one, Bootstrap. Okay, so we're going to be rendering, oops, I didn't copy it. Okay, so let's import that icon. So import this icon from React icons / bootstrap. There we go. Let's save this. Let's see what we have on the screen. And we should have this on the screen. Look at that. Now we don't want this border bottom. Instead, now what we do want to do is that when this matches, then we want the let's say BG white. Is it BG or text white? BG white. Do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? And obviously you can tell that now we need to take this from here, cut it out and place it below this there. Okay, so that now it comes to the bottom. And then this has a padding top. Where is it? This is a margin top of 10. So we need to remove it from here, right? Move it upwards and then place the margin on the paragraph. So on this paragraph, let's say margin bottom 10, like so. And then you know what? Inside here, we need to say, give this a class name. No, not there really. Give this a class name of rounded dash full. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's see. Can I specify a height here? So let's say height -10, width -10, and then rounded dash full. That's a bit too big. That's a bit too big. A bit too big. Let's say height 5. Okay, but that doesn't work because now the icon is bigger than the thingy. So let's maybe cut it out from here. Let me add it here. Give this a class name of this. Okay, so height is big, so we need the height to be smaller. Is that it? Really, why isn't this working? These, guys, are some of the reasons why I do not like CSS. Okay, so height -2, height -4, height -5. Okay, so height -5 works. Okay. Look at that, looking amazing. Now we can toggle through this, we can cycle through this, and it's looking fine. These buttons are a bit different from what you have in the design, but it looks fine according to me. Now what we need to do is actually, do I need this now inside here? No, I don't need it anyway. What we need to do now is bring this text to the left, and then this guy should go to the right. So what we can do is, on small screens, let me first of all look how it looks on small screens. The text eats up a bit because of he has a really long name. What we can do, because this looks fine on small screens, only that now this doesn't go all the way to the bottom. So let's change this up. Let's change this up a bit. Remember where we had the height of, remember where we're calculating this height? So now I want to change this to 100%. Let's see if that will work. Let's see if that would work. Will that work? Will that work? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So let's say calculate 105 viewport heights. Don't tell me that doesn't work as well. Really? Really? Oh, wait a minute. I'm changing it on the wrong place. What am I doing? 105 viewport heights. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is annoying sometimes. You know what? Let's just deal with what we have first of all, and then we can fix the bugs later. So let's bring this to the left, and then the text to the image to the right. So what I can do is now, actually, you know what? The only thing that we need to do is just grab this article from here and place it below this article. Okay, and then what we need to do now is that on small screens, we need this to go back to the top. We need this to go back to the top. So what we can do is, right inside here, we can say flex item center and justify center, and then we can say flex column reverse. like so. There we go, looking amazing. And then on large screens this happens. Look at that, would you look at that, just playing around with CSS. So we have the destination, we have the crew page that we can toggle through, and so on and so forth. And then now actually what we would need to do now is maybe do something like this, where remember we had a fixed width for the image inside here. So for the crew, what I can do is I can go inside here, and you know what, I'm actually not using this, so we can remove it. So we can do this, instead of limiting this, we don't need it anymore, like so. And then now what I can do is just position this as absolute. So let me say that for large screens, position this as absolute, position it to the bottom by 0. Oops, that didn't go as planned. Oh, you know what, I think I do need this. I do need that. Okay, that did not go as planned, so rather than dealing with it, let me remove it. There we go. And then let's deal with our technology page. And then of course, once again, you can tell that we're just going to be doing something similar. So I'm going to copy all of this, and then let's go into the technology page, and then let's just paste this inside here. Let's change this to technology, and then let's grab all of this and change this to technology, small t. Okay, and then what does the text say? The text says space launch 101. Copy this, paste it inside here. There we go. And then once we have space launch 101, then we need to change this once again. Let's say what do we call this now? Let's call this cards, like so. And then for these cards, what do we need to do? We need the names, images, and description. Okay, so we need the description. And then this needs to say card value, or cards value, like so. And then let's say we don't need this, but we do need the description, like so. And then what else do we need? We don't need actually we do need this still, because now this is going to be showing numbers instead, right? So this shows numbers. And then we need the image, so the image.png. Okay, and then let's see, what else do we need? We can save that and we can test it out. What does it say? People is not defined. People is not defined because now this needs to be cards. Okay, there we go. Role is assigned a value but never used. Where is it? Oh, in our crew we missed something. Oops, sorry for that. We missed this. So this needs to go above our h2, which is this one. So let's say an h4 that says role. Okay, so let's see what we have on our screen. We have crew, reload. Something's about to break, I can tell. That's what it does before it breaks. Oh, there we go. Nothing broke. Okay. Okay, so let's go back inside here. Let's give this a class name of uppercase. Let's say text gray dash 400. Let's say margin bottom 5. And then let's see. Why do we have so much margin inside here? Why is there so much margin? Let's say text dash 2XL. Okay. Why is there so much margin? Is it because of the image? Not too sure. Okay, so let's go ahead. So this is the what? So this is meet your crew. So what does this third one say? This third one says space launch 101. Okay, so space launch 101, and then we need to change this from crew. We already changed it. So technology, we're going to do the same thing. Just copy this below this, change this to mobile, to technology, sorry, like so. And then just copy this. Actually, this should say technology as well. Technology. Paste this inside here. Change this to tablet. I apologize because I'm getting a bit tired. And then we can paste this inside here as well. So tablet, oh sorry, no, desktop. Did I do that correctly? Okay, fantastic. So this should change. Really, what did it do? What did it do? Technology tablet. What does it say? Background technology tablet. Which one does it say? It says mobile does not exist. The mobile technology mobile.jpg. Let's see. Oh, you know what? This is technology. What am I doing? Technology / mobile, like so. So we need just to change this. We need to change this here to say, now this should say tablet. And then we need to change that as well here, so that now this should say desktop. Really? Desktop. Okay. Reload this. Make sure that it reloads. There we go. Fantastic. Okay, so this is what we have on the screen currently, and you can tell that now we can toggle through the text and whatever, and the images as well, but we can't really see the image. Let's find out why. Images. Oh, now it's portrait, not PNG. Okay, so images of portrait. Wait a minute, portrait. Portrait is the one that stands. Okay, so which means landscape. We will need to toggle this for larger screens or what? You know what? Let's do this. Let's cut this out, and then let's add a picture tag, and then let's add a source for media queries for a min width of 768 pixels, and this source set is going to be coming from images dot portrait, right? And then this other image is going to be image of landscape for smaller screens. There we go. So on small screens, basically, then the image is going to change to a landscape image, like so. And then on larger screens, it's going to change to a portrait image. Fantastic. Now, what we need to do is deal with this so that it actually shows the text. So right inside here, instead of rendering numbers, we're going to be rendering the index of the item. And we're going to be rendering, we don't need this BG white. We don't need the BG white. We're going to be adding some more class name. This is 0, 1, 2. We need to say 1, 2, 3. So let's return index +1. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, fantastic. And then what we need to do is we need this to have a border, right? So let's say border -2, border white. Okay, let's remove this height. Okay, and you know, let's add a height of 10 and a width of 10. Okay, and then we can say we can add, let's say, padding of 1. What does that do? Okay, moves it just to the center, much better. And then, you know what, let's say padding, let's say height of 12. Okay, let's say padding of 2, push it back to the center. Fantastic. And then now when we click on this, then the background should be white. There we go. And then we should now change the text. So the text should now say gray-800 so that it's visible. There we go. Would you look at that? Simple as ABC. Okay, simple as ABC. Amazing. Now we just need to grab this and place it inside here. So that would mean that we now need to grab all of this. And you know, that means that this needs to be one div or an article, and then this needs to be the other one. Okay, so let's see. Actually, on small screens, how do we want to make this look on small screens? So on small screens, then I want the text to go back to the top and then the image to go to the bottom. So let's grab this article, cut it out and place it above this article right inside here, like so. Okay, and then let's bring these numbers on the top. So let's grab this, place it on top right inside here, like so. And then for the header, let's say margin Y of 5, so on the top and bottom, pushes it away from this as well. So we can have this, so we can toggle those. And then what we need to do now is just scale it up. Let's say that that actually looks quite nice. It does. What I need to do now is that for large screens, you know, did I do that correctly actually? I think it's correct, but now we need to just bring this image to the right using Flexbox. So let's go ahead and let's say what I want to do is now this h2 and the paragraph are going to be one div, like so. Cut it out, place it inside the div, and then this is going to be another div, like so. Nothing changes. Fantastic. Now what I'm going to do is right here, let's say for large screens, then I want flex. Okay, and then let's say item center. Okay, fantastic. And then let's say flex row reverse should be correct. Now what am I doing? Wait, am I styling the wrong one? Wait, I'm actually styling the wrong one. Okay, so actually this is actually nice because now we can already deal with this. So let's go inside this div and then give this div a class name of grid, and then grid. No, let's say for large screens. No, grid. And grid columns too. And actually not grid columns one. Okay, so let's have this as grid. And then let's say grid grid columns 1 with a gap of 5. We should separate these buttons. That is not what I expected. That is not what I expected. So probably on large screens. Wait, why does it do that? What? Okay, you know what? Then let's just go inside these buttons. Let's say my2. You know what? Let's say m all round, margin all round of 2. There we go. And then we can say margin on the right of 5, pushed away from the text. Okay. You know what? Instead of adding this inside here, let's go inside this div. Let's give this div a class name of margin left of 10. There we go. And then what we need to do is now, I thought I was in the parent div. So this is the div, this is the div. I thought I was, let's remove this. So I need to go inside this div. Okay, so this should be flex column now instead of flex column reverse. Move, come on, move. What? Why isn't none of this working? Oh, this is for small screens. What am I doing? Okay. Then it means that on large screens, let me place it here. Let's say on large screens, then it should say flex row or flex row or flex row reverse. Why isn't none of this working? I'm really annoying. And you know what? It's because this is already grid. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's say for large screens, then let's take it back to flex. There we go. There we go. And then let's go and let's limit this div. So this div is this one right here. Let's say that for large screens, then the width should be half. Okay. And I don't want this to happen. Let's say width should be 2/3. No, let's just set it to width half. And then you know what? Okay, this is going to be a bit hard to style because of playing around with all of this. It's going to be a bit hard. So you know what? Let me grab this article and place it back on the bottom. Let me place it back on the bottom like so. And then let's remove this. Let's remove this. Oh. Wait, what was that? Really? Now where's my text? Where's my text? There's supposed to be some text above this. Let me copy this h2. Where's this h2? No, the h4. Copy this and then let's place it above this h2. And then let's set this to the terminology. log dot dot dot. There we go. There we go. Okay, so just to make sure that on small screens it also appears nicely. Just making sure. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. That is looking amazing, but it seems as though I have more margin here, and it's because I have a margin left somewhere. What did I have here? This should say on large screens. There we go. That now is complete to the center. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, just to make sure that everything is working correctly, so the Moon, Europa, Titan, and so on and so forth. For the crew page, we have this. And why do we have this? Oh, you know what? It's because of the it's because of the image. The image goes all the way to the bottom. And then for the crew page, for the technology page, we have this. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Now let me just see. Let's see if we can play around with this crew page. For the crew, we have this image. Let's go inside this article. Give this a class name of absolute. Take it to the right by 0 and to the bottom by 0. Okay, so that we're going to have this. But then what does this do? That's the reason why I didn't want to play around with this. I didn't want to play around with the position absolute because it's sometimes annoying. Sometimes let me go to the parent div. Let's say that for large screens, then this should be relative. Yeah, see that? Now I don't want to do that. I'm really not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Let's remove this. Okay, so that we're going to have this. Probably, you know what? We have, I think it's because we have quite a bit of margin on this right somewhere about here. So let me see where I have that margin bottom. Wait, what? Let's check this out. What is this? Oh, it's because we have item center on this grid. Okay, you know what? Then that would mean that let's just limit this to width half. The image to width half. Or let's say width 3/4. Yeah, I think that would be the best solution for this currently because I don't really feel like starting to play around with these images. And yeah, so now that we have this, the next that we do need to do is just to confirm that all of this, we don't have any errors. So let's remove this. Let's remove this image, this icon, because we're not using it. Just to make sure that we don't have any errors, okay? And then we can close this. And then what you need to do now is, once you have this, because I'm not going to be deploying this, or not, no, just so that everything is uniform. Okay, so I'm going to deploy this to GitHub just so that you can have access to the code and in case you want a bit of reference. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go inside my GitHub and then I'm going to go into Frontend Mentor and then I'm going to submit this website. I'm going to submit this challenge, sorry. So let's go ahead inside here, click on this, let's say visit Challenge Hub, let's say submit solution, repo URL, let's copy this and paste it inside here and then copy this and paste it inside here. Let's say mobile first space tourism landing page, and yep, let's submit solution. Okay, that's looking amazing, looking fantastic. Let's see, where's our solution? Can't see our solution. View solution. Yep, we didn't really get all that close to the design, but remember that this is the first one that I did. This is not the current one that I've done right now. Okay, just to make sure. Okay, and this also has a line. Didn't catch that, but that's okay. That's okay. You can't really catch everything, you know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and you liked it. So yeah, this is going to be the end of the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you're not already and leave a like on the video as well, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.